Istanbul, 1929. In a forgotten archive of the Topkapi Palace, our known history was about to change. Turkish historian Halil Edem unrolled a brittle parchment paper beneath dim lamplight. Across from him, German scholar Gustav Diesmann watches as colorful coastlines begin to emerge that were familiar and then suddenly strange. There's South America mapped with uncanny precision for a 16th century chart. But then, below it, a vast southern landmass. A coastline that mirrors Antarctica's Queen Maud Land, yet is drawn ice-free, with rivers, inlets, and terrain details that have been hidden beneath glaciers for thousands of years. Yet, this map was signed in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis. The problem is that Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820, and most of it's been covered with ice for thousands of years, making it impossible for somebody in medieval times to map it with such accuracy, including its subglacial features. And furthermore, modern humans weren't even able to map the coastline until the mid-20th century. So how could this map have been made in 1513? This isn't a legend, this isn't luck. This is something that shouldn't exist. A contradiction inked in the margins of history. A glimpse perhaps of something long forgotten or deliberately erased. This unexplained mystery gets me every time. I'm your host JJ, and I'm going to try and unravel this with you. It really is one of history's greatest mysteries. So let's get into it. The discovery left scholars stunned. Was this a mistake or a remnant of forgotten knowledge that challenges everything we know about exploration and human civilization? To understand how such a map could exist, we have to return to the height of the Ottoman Empire. It's the early 1500s. Spain and Portugal are carving out new empires across the Atlantic. But in the east, the Ottoman Empire is asserting its own dominance under Sultan Selim. In this age of seaborne expansion, maps are more than tools. They are power. Ahmed Muhiddin Piri, later known as Piri Reis, was born around 1470 in what is modern-day Gallipoli. He came of age aboard Ottoman ships sailing under his uncle, the legendary corsair Kemal Reis. Together they fought Venetian fleets, raided European coasts, and charted the known world from Morocco to the Aegean. But after Kemal's death in 1511, Piri returned home a changed man. No longer a warrior, he became a cartographer, obsessed with compiling the full extent of global knowledge onto parchment. In 1513, he completed what would become his most enduring legacy, a large map of the Atlantic world, intended as a gift for the Sultan. Measuring just 90 by 60 centimeters, their surviving fragments show Western Europe, North Africa, the Atlantic Ocean, and much of South America. But tucked at its southern edge lies something far stranger, a coastline trailing east from South America, one that closely resembles Antarctica's Queen Maud Land. Yet it wasn't just what the map showed that made it extraordinary. It was how Piri Reis created it. Piri included his own annotations, written in fluid Ottoman Turkish, explaining that the map was compiled from over 20 sources. Some were contemporary Portuguese and Arabic charts. Others, he claimed, were far older, dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Many scholars now interpret this as a reference to ancient Hellenistic knowledge, preserved and copied by Arab geographers during the Islamic Golden Age. One source stood out, a chart allegedly drawn by Christopher Columbus, which had come into the Ottoman hands via a captured Spanish sailor who claimed to have sailed with him. Among the geographic detail are stranger notes, tales of sea monsters, cannibals, and golden cities. But beneath the stories lie precise contours and coastlines that Piri could not have seen, some of which correspond with maps made centuries later. He had created not just a chart, but a puzzle, an impossible knowledge. For over 4 centuries, the map laid forgotten, rolled and stored in the palace archives. Then, in 1929, it resurfaced, and the modern world took notice. Initially, it was treated as an Ottoman curiosity, but the map quickly sparked international attention. Scholars began scrutinizing its geographic details, comparing it to known 16th century data. What they found disturbed them. The map's rendering of the eastern coastline of South America, particularly Brazil, was uncannily precise. The placement of the Amazon River Delta, the curve at the northeastern bulge, and even the subtle indentations along the coastline matched modern satellite imagery with a degree of accuracy that wasn't possible in Piri's time. Some features weren't even properly known to European cartographers until the mid to late 18th century. But it was what lay beneath South America that triggered the real controversy. At the map's southern edge, Piri had drawn an expansive coastline, one that trailed eastward and then sharply curved, following the general outline of what we now recognize as Antarctica's Queen Maudland. And it wasn't speculative like the mythical Terra Australis, common in many Renaissance maps. It was detailed, measurable and aligned with modern topographical surveys. According to mainstream history, Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, when Russian, American, and British expeditions first sighted its frozen shores, more than 300 years after Piri Reis drew his map. And more disturbingly, in his map, the land appears ice-free. In 1949, a joint British-American expedition using seismic technology actually mapped Queen Maud's land and its subglacial coast. And astonishingly, the features beneath the ice matched Piri's contours. One of the map's notes even referenced the unusual length of daylight near the southernmost regions, an exact fit with the conditions of Antarctic summer. But how could a 16th century admiral who had never sailed past the equator know about such polar phenomena? The anomalies mounted. Historians and cartographers alike found themselves sailing into an uncomfortable possibility. Either Piri Reis had made a series of astonishingly lucky guesses, or he had access to source material that, according to our history, shouldn't have existed. Some knowledge that was lost or simply forgotten. And then came another shock. Not in the modern area, but buried in the past, because Piri Reis wasn't the only one to draw Antarctica before its discovery. In 1531, just 18 years after Piri completed his map, a strikingly similar depiction surfaced in France. Centuries before anyone knew what lay beneath the ice, the mapmaker Ron Fines, who was a royal cartographer and mathematician under King Francis, made a beautifully rendered and mathematically ambitious map, which showed a vast continent dominating the southern hemisphere named Terra Australis, which was typically displayed as a mythical land on many medieval maps, but not this time. This was an accurate depiction of something very real: Antarctica. Fine southern land wasn't a shapeless blob. It had detail, coastlines, rivers, and capes, many of which bore an uncanny resemblance to modern representations of ice-free Antarctica. Like Piri's chart, Fine's Terra Australis was mapped with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible. Two cartographers, working separately under different empires, had drawn nearly identical features of a continent that wouldn't be confirmed for almost 300 years, and whose subglacial coast wasn't revealed until the mid-20th century. Could both men have made the same impossible guess? Or were they tapping into a deeper lineage of knowledge, preserved fragments of charts passed down through Arab libraries, Byzantine archives, or even older, forgotten civilizations? And that's immediately where my mind goes with this. That year after year, we see the discovery of artifacts and documents that completely baffle our understanding of what ancient knowledge and civilizations were capable of, like the Antikythera mechanism. This mechanism is said to be an ancient Greek analog computer, possibly as old as 100 year BCE, which was used to predict astronomical positions in eclipses with surprising mechanical complexity. And this thing, again, is a mystery because its advanced gear-based technology was thought to be impossible for its time, and it has no known precedent in the ancient world. It's just an example that shows that maybe our ancient ancestors were doing a lot more than we realized. Maybe it's not that crazy to think that they discovered Antarctica long before us and that record's been lost somehow. Some fringe historians actually argue that these maps could be echoes of an ancient global seafaring culture, a culture capable of charting Antarctica when it was still free of ice over 6,000 years ago. Yeah, that's another crazy part to hone in on, is that not only are these maps predating Antarctica's discovery, they're depicting things that had to be observed thousands and thousands of years ago, meaning that humans had a nautical knowledge way beyond what we imagine, way before when we imagined it. However, mainstream academia does reject this idea. Scholars argue that the coastline isn't Antarctica at all, but a misinterpreted extension of South America, or a speculative rendition of the mythical Terra Australis common on Renaissance maps. The coincidence remains: two maps and two moments in history, one impossible coastline rendered centuries before science was ready to accept it. It definitely seems unlikely that they could draw all these super accurate features just by coincidence. But absence of evidence isn't evidence. In the decades after the rediscovery of the map, a lot of researchers tried to make the map fit the more accepted versions of history, simply labeling the two maps' existence as sheer coincidence or a lucky mistake. However, one of the less mainstream attempts to decipher the map came in the 1960s from Professor Charles Hapgood, a historian at Keene State College. In his book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, Hapgood proposed that the Piri Reis map didn't draw Antarctica itself, but rather it had copied pieces of far older charts, remnants of lost seafaring civilizations with advanced knowledge of geometry and navigation. He noted that the projection used in the map was remarkably sophisticated for the early 1500s, possibly implying a mathematical understanding beyond Piri's time. Just to explain, a projection of a map is essentially taking the Earth's curved surface and adjusting it to fit on a flat map. And what's more remarkable in that again is that not only was the math not possible during Piri's time, it makes you wonder, well, how was it possible in a time thousands of years before him? I don't know. I'm confused by that too, and this is why I love this mystery. Now, Hapgood's boldest claim was that the map depicted Antarctica before it was covered in ice, dating back more than 6,000 years, long before any known maritime culture. He cross-referenced Piri's coastal outlines with 1949 seismic data from the joint British and American surveys that I mentioned. It's even said that Albert Einstein cautiously entertained the idea, writing a foreword to Hapgood's earlier work, though he stopped short of full endorsement. I just want to say thanks for tuning into this episode. If you like mystery content and great historical stories, consider subscribing to the channel. With that, I won't take any more of your time, so let's move on. Another thing that comes up is that there's notes on the map that makes things even stranger. One of the annotations describes regions with very long days, which is an unmistakable reference to polar daylight. There is no way that Piri or any sailor of this time would have known about the sun circling the horizon near Antarctica. This is where the cracks begin to form in the more mainstream historical narrative. Some scholars tried to explain it away. Perhaps Piri misinterpreted his sources, but each rebuttal raised more questions than it answered. Because the coastline that he drew wasn't vague or decorative, it appears intentional and detailed. Now, when you see the overlay of the map, you can decide for yourself whether you think it actually lines up. Myself, I'm not sure. However, I will say it is compelling and raises the question, could centuries of copying have accidentally preserved something that looks so real? I mean, this would essentially be a long game of broken telephone. It seems more likely to me that Piri Reis did base this off of real knowledge that was out there, maybe indigenous knowledge, maybe ancient knowledge. But years of different mathematics and map projections distorted the images that make it hard to really tell one way or the other. It is the accuracy of South America that gets me, because it seems like he was a very capable map maker and wasn't making a lot of mistakes considering the era that he produced it in. But it makes you wonder if an early civilization had charted the Earth way more than we ever imagined. Others would begin to take these theories further. The more closely the map was studied, the more it seemed to defy every category historians tried to place it in. This clearly wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a prophecy. And it didn't fit into the known history of exploration. So if this was an echo from an earlier world, why are these the only accounts? Where is the knowledge? I mean, you have things like the burning of the library at Alexandria. Maybe there was ancient maps in there, or remnants of it kind of placed around the world. Maybe there was maps of Antarctica in that we're just completely unaware of. And if this was a mistake, then like I said earlier, it was one made with terrifying precision. Even today, no one can say for certain where this information came from or how it ended up in the hands of an Ottoman admiral in 1513. What remains is this artifact, and it continues to whisper a single impossible question. What did we used to know that we've since forgotten? And as you know, probably from listening to this show, that when humans don't have the answer to something, we like to fill in the blanks and kind of come up with our own narratives, whether they're accurate or not, unfortunately. This is where a lot of people throw their theories out there. as to exactly how this map came to be. Some alternative theorists actually propose bold answers. One of the theories that people have come up with is one that I already mentioned, right? Charles Hapgood, who proposed that basically this map came from fragments of ancient civilizations or lost knowledge. We do know that Hapgood's ideas were quickly cast aside by mainstream media, but others took his premise and decided to run even farther. One of the popular theories suggests that the map is a surviving fragment of a culture that existed before 10,000 BCE, before the last glacial maximum. According to this view, these prehistoric mariners explored the globe and recorded their knowledge of maps that were eventually absorbed into Greek and Egyptian culture. Piri unknowingly may have inherited the last echoes of a long vanished archive. Another explanation ventures into geology, the Earth crust displacement theory. This was popularized by Hapgood, but extended by others. And essentially, it claims that entire continents shifted position due to a sudden slippage of the planet's outer shell. It said that Antarctica may have once sat in a more temperate climate, and once the slip happened, it was shifted southwards. But before the slip, it would have been accessible to early seafarers before moving south and frozen in ice. Now, if ancient maps were drawn during that window of habitability, they may have captured the continent's true shape, only to be copied and passed down until Piri unknowingly gave them a new life. But there's even more radical views still. Some theorists link the Piri Reis map to Atlantis, the lost civilization, claiming it may be one of the last surviving records of a highly advanced civilization which was wiped out by a catastrophe. Others speculate that the map's creators had to have had aerial survey knowledge, impossible by the standards of the 16th century. There are also claims about mathematical anomalies, arguments that the maps show longitudinal accuracy way too advanced for its times. Moving forward in time into the digital age, new layers of mystery have emerged. There's satellite comparisons between Piri's southern landmass and Queen Maud Land beneath Antarctica's ice, which show consistent alignments and curvature of the inlets, and everything seems to be in proportion. This leads a lot of people to believe that there is no doubt that there was an advanced civilization out there, a seafaring civilization, way before our time, way before Piri Reis's time, leaving behind these almost mystical fragments of knowledge. And despite a lot of scrutiny over all of these theories, the one thing that historians keep coming back to is that there's misinterpretations and mistakes. And I'm telling you, if there's a mathematician listening to this, help me do some calculations, because that's not me. But it would just seem to me it's way more statistically unlikely that a series of mistakes led to an accurate representation as opposed to they actually knew how to do it, because it seems throughout history we've gone through catastrophes where we've lost knowledge, civilizations that were wiped out from things like volcanoes, glacial expansion forcing civilization southwards, and possibly even great floods during the Younger Dryas period 12,000 years ago. And let's not forget the burning of the library at Alexandria. All of these things definitely make it plausible that we've lost serious knowledge, and that maybe not advanced civilizations in terms of like modern day society, but advanced enough to make accurate maps and mathematical calculations did exist, and we just don't have knowledge of them yet. And it seems like every year there's parts of history that are being rewritten. So it seems more plausible to me that there's a missing piece of this puzzle that would explain how this map is so accurate, and we might actually get it someday. And I look forward to the discovery of anything related to this, especially now with AI becoming more and more competent. I think we're going to get some answers. I don't think this is going to be one of those forever unsolved mysteries. However, it could be if it's going to take some kind of hidden archaeological discovery, like the answer to this is buried in the ground somewhere. But I'm just hopeful that someday we'll actually get an answer to this. This map exists today, and it seems to be a silent witness that stubbornly resists explanation. The Piri Reis map asks not merely whether we have forgotten ancient chapters of our history, but what else we might have forgotten. Maybe this is the tip of the iceberg, pun intended. And if this Ottoman admiral seated in a candlelit chamber had access to sources that far beyond known voyages, what else is actually out there? What other ancient documents might we come across? It makes me think of the Voynich Manuscript, an extremely mysterious document unsolved for hundreds of years. Again, it defies all logic and explanation. If you want to see more about that, check out the episode on the channel. While we search the stars for proof of life and lost wisdom, it might be possible that the greatest mysteries lie buried right here on Earth, right beneath our feet, hidden on fragments of parchment, waiting patiently for somebody to discover them before they disintegrate and turn into dust. It's been a great episode. I really want to thank you for joining it. If you like this content, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with somebody you know. We're going to be back again with another great story in about a week's time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned.